Assalamu alaikum. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope you're staying safe. This is a very troubling time. Everything that's happening with the coronavirus, the pandemic that we're experiencing, not just locally, but internationally, globally, it's very scary and unsettling. I wanted to put together this little video, hopefully, maybe to try to make sense of what's going on and how we can make the most of this time that we are essentially self-quarantined in many places and legally quarantined in other places. The first thing that I want to say is that this is really, really serious. I don't mean to be a downer. I don't want to depress people, but this is an extremely urgent, serious global situation. We have not experienced anything like this in our lifetime. Wallahu alam, we probably won't experience anything like this again in our lifetime. It is very important that we take it that seriously. What that means is that you have to follow all health guidelines that are provided by your local government, federal or national governments. You need to follow the parameters and the guidelines by things like the CDC, the World Health Organization, other type of bodies that are monitoring and offering almost on a day-by-day basis recommendations and things that you can implement, from washing your hands to making sure you're clean, social distancing, all of those things. For us, it's incumbent from a logical point of view, it's incumbent from a Sharia point of view that we comply, and also from a legal point of view. For those of us that run mosques or run Islamic institutions, it is absolutely imperative, 110% imperative that we comply with all of the rules. We must shut down the masajid, we must stop the Jummah prayer, all of the things that have been happening, but I know there are some lingering mosques and discussions within the community online about the Sharia legality of that. I mean, of course, we are 100% within our Sharia right to do that. Not only that, but it is incumbent upon us to follow the laws of the land that dictate these type of situations, because this is the type of pandemic that we are experiencing, and we have to find a way to stem the problem, to flatten the curve as is being stated. However, I'm not a health expert or a disease expert, so that's not really why I wanted to put the video together, but I thought I should mention that at the beginning. The real question is, what do we do? Now that we're at home, inshallah, most of you are healthy, most of us have not been infected, we're stuck at home, we're quarantined, we're trying to make sense of that, we're trying to get along with our families. Many of us have children under our care or elderly parents that we're responsible for. What do we do with this situation? How can we make the best of it? I'm reminded of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he came back from one of his battles and he said, we're returning from the lesser jihad to the greater jihad. And the Sahaba said, well, what can be greater than what we were just engaged in? That was a pretty physically intense experience. And he said, it's the jihad of each person against themselves. And the reason I'm reminded of that is because we're always us. You're always you. And now that you're home, and now that you're sort of stuck in place for an uncertain period of time, who knows, this could last several months, nothing can be more true than this hadith. We are our worst enemies often. And this is an opportunity for us to work on that, to face ourselves, to face the demons that are within us, to face the deficiencies that we have, all of those personal growth things, the deep work, as sometimes it's called, that we've put off for so long. Now is an optimal time to work on those things. And even though it's a pandemic, even though there's economic uncertainty, I don't want people to think that I'm immune to that. We're all unfortunately stuck. We can't change those things. They are what they are. That's what we call qadr. It is something that has been destined upon us. Our job is to react to it the best we can. That is why the Prophet ﷺ said, strange is the affair of the believer, because it's always good. Either they're patient or they're grateful. So for us, our job is to be patient, but to look within. To look within and to improve ourselves, to work on ourselves. So I wanted to offer three easy things that I think we can do. Number one, I think it's really important that we take our prayer, and now that we are on almost the eve of Ramadan, we take our fasting seriously. In the month of Rajab is one of the holy months of Islam, as we know it. At the end of this month is the month that we commemorate the Isra and Ma'raj. And the big lesson from that is to recommit to our prayer. And then comes Sha'ban, and then Sha'ban reminds us that right after that is Ramadan, the month of fasting. Both the prayer and the fasting have tremendous spiritual benefit. They have a power to calm us, to connect us to our Creator, to help us be grounded, to help regulate the rhythm of our life, the rhythm of our day. Now that most of us are at home, maybe we can take a couple extra more minutes with our wudu, a couple more extra minutes with our prayer. We can really savor the power of fasting, reconnect with the Quran, etc. Those are very easy things that are right there within our grasp. Number two is you should use this time to read. Reading is something that unfortunately we have lost in our community. We used to be a community of readers. The first verse revealed in the Quran is Iqra, to recite. There are so many hadith that praise the seeker of knowledge. We need to read, we need to educate ourselves, we need to learn about the past, and when you do that, you will realize that what we are going through, while for us is unique, has happened before. Has happened before at a greater scale, and unfortunately with much greater death toll. Whether it be the Spanish flu or the bubonic plague or other plagues that have, those are maybe more Western, but things that have also happened in the heartland of the Muslim world, even to the point that the Hajj was canceled or stopped or severely limited because of the plague situation. So when we read, we expose ourselves. There I'm assuming you're reading history, but you can read anything. One of the great quotes that I love of D.H. Lawrence, the famous British novelist, is he says that the novel is one of the final or the greatest bright points of life. So even if it's literature, to reconnect with language that is rich, that talks about the human experience and human feeling and how it is articulated in language, this is one of the things that we have been bestowed with, is the ability to reason and to communicate with one another. So by reading, we reconnect with all of those things, whether it be literature, whether it be things Islamic, whether it be things historic, but use this extra time to read, to read, to read. And number 3, I think it's very important to engage in some type of creative activity. And you have to be creative to invent your creative activity. Many of us have home improvement projects that we've put off. Many of us have little things that we wanted to do around the house that we have not. Many of us have been interested in doing this or dabbling in that. Now is the time to also engage in a creative act. And the reason is that when you engage your mind in something other than the stress of the day-to-day, stress of the work, stress of what's happening outside, and you can engage in something that unlocks your creativity, it has a magical way of relaxing you. It can be very therapeutic. It can be very calming. It can be that calm in the storm that we need. So I encourage everyone to find that creative act. Some people, it might be actually, like the arts and crafts, like coloring or drawing or whatever, or doodling. Whatever, some kids, they love Lego, and it might be working on a Lego set with your children. But that creative act of building, of creating something, to manifest something from nothing, I think is very, very important during this time. Last thing I want to say is, as people of faith, let us not underestimate the power of prayer. This is a time in which we must all collectively turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ask Him sincerely for forgiveness, to ask Him sincerely for guidance. And let us also remember, part of our prayer should be those who are in a position of authority, that Allah ta'ala guides them to make the right decision. We are now much more than ever really in the hands of these decision makers. And while one could argue it's always been that case, it's definitely apparent now. You wake up one morning and the governor of my state will, a new edict, a new law has been enacted that bans this, that limits that. And by the afternoon, we must comply. So it's very important, and this is actually a sunnah of the Salaf. The Salaf used to ask that Allah Ta'ala guide the people that make the decisions. This is irrespective of faith, irrespective if we agree with them in everything or if we like them or anything like that. But for better or for worse, they are the ones that are in the position to make decisions. We ask Allah Ta'ala to guide them, to make the right decisions. We ask Allah Ta'ala to keep us safe. And this is really the time that we re-engage in this muscle of prayer, this muscle of dua. The Prophet ﷺ, he called dua in one hadith, mukhul ibadah. It is the head of all acts of worship. And in another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, ad-du'a huwa al-ibadah. The dua itself is worship, meaning that he summarized all of the acts of worship of Islam in this one act, which is to ask Allah Ta'ala to acknowledge our deficiency, our inability, our need of Him in our lives, and to remind ourselves of who is in control. I hope we remain safe. I hope you find some of these suggestions useful, and I will talk to you soon online. Take care. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.